So increasingly funders are asking applicants why they think their projects will work and how they can learn from those projects. And in this video, we'd like to talk about how you can be more successful in getting funding by answering those questions. I'm here at Wicken Fen, and I'm here with Nancy Ockenden from the Endangered Landscape Programme, who's been a pioneer in asking for evidence. We'll list all the funders that have asked for evidence here, and we've just been training the last lot of grantees as to how they can use evidence and how they can test. So why do you think this is so important?
Fundamentally, there's not enough evidence about what works and what doesn't work. So we work in landscape restoration. It's a complicated field, and projects are making decisions all the time about what to do. And we really want them to be as effective as possible, to not be repeating things that don't work, and to be choosing the best options. And we really need to check the evidence before you go ahead and plan your project to do that.
And do you follow the evidence, or do you reflect on the evidence?
These are complicated projects, and they're doing lots of different things, and they're probably working in quite unique circumstances. So I think it's very much about reflecting on the evidence and really making their decision making as transparent as possible. So it's unlikely that there will be a good body of evidence showing exactly the best option to do in these circumstances, but really looking at different sources of evidence, weighing that up, and then making a decision that works for their circumstances, which is what we're trying to encourage amongst our grantees.
So when you're evaluating these projects, what sort of sources of evidence are you looking for?
So it really varies. I guess the first stop would always be the scientific published literature, and checking that. If there's some nice published peer-reviewed studies, that's always a brilliant place to start. But a lot of our projects are working in novel contexts, in different geographies, and often there really isn't that much of a published scientific basis in those sites. So then they'll be talking to people, they'll be using their personal experience, talking to experts. There's often lots of valuable information buried in reports and data sets that haven't been published. And then in some contexts, there's really important local knowledge as well that should be incorporated. So again, it's bringing in all those different sources of information and then making a decision based on that.
So some people are worried that this prevents innovation because you've always got to repeat what's been done in the past. Is that a problem?
Absolutely not. As I said, I think it's really about being more transparent. We really actually want to encourage innovation, but just identifying when it is and not making the mistake of doing things that have been done and haven't worked again. But if it's something that truly hasn't been tested, we'd really encourage our projects to test it, if obviously it's a sensible thing to do, and then to collect evidence. And then we can start to understand increasingly what the best options are.
And it's great that you do encourage testing, and an increasing number of funders are asking for tests to be included in programmes, which is fabulous. So most conservation organisations do monitoring and evaluation. How does this differ?
So we put a lot of emphasis in the ELSP on monitoring as well. We really want to show what benefits landscape restoration can deliver, because again there's a lack of evidence there, and we really think it's important for making the argument to policymakers, to funders, to other landowners, what difference the project is making. So monitoring is really looking at the impact of maybe the whole project or maybe a suite of actions in a certain habitat. So looking at the effect of forest restoration, wetland restoration, and seeing what that delivers for nature and for people. Because I think the testing part of our projects is much more focused. We really try to encourage projects to think about single actions and really being able to link the action to its impact. And to do that, you really have to have a sort of designed experiment that you've thought about carefully, that you're sure that the results are going to answer that question about what is the impact of this intervention, and possibly comparing it with a different option. So for example, business as usual versus this innovative option for restoring, for example, your wetland.
So it's going back to the classic idea of a fair test, of comparing something with somewhere else which is exactly the same, but the action's not being done or different actions being done, and then replicating and monitoring in the same way.
Yeah, exactly that. So I think as you say, thinking simply. I often tell the projects to think a bit smaller for the testing part of their project, and also that bringing in those dimensions of experimental design. So considering how many replicates do you need, and really crucially, what's your comparison going to be? Are you going to have a business as usual comparison, which can be really, really informative actually. Sometimes having an untreated control, as in a classic experiment, so that you can really test which of these is the best option to take to get the best outcomes for our projects.
So I guess my philosophy on that is that if it's something that would obviously have an effect, so you do something horrible to an invasive species, it's obviously going to do less well. So it's kind of fairly trivial to then show that. In that case, it's much more interesting to compare the treatments. I'm going to cut it in the spring or the autumn and those sorts of things. But if it's a completely new action, then testing that against a control is a really interesting thing to do. So what have you learned from the programme so far?
So the ELSP has been asking for tests for the last 5 years or so. And I think one of the things I've learned is it takes time. So we're just beginning to see results. It takes time to design tests, implement them. You have to integrate them into the project management. It's really crucial that you do work with the practitioners and it works with the delivery of the restoration as well. And then you have to wait for responses. But we're getting to see some really interesting results. So for example, we've got a project working in the Highlands of Scotland on forest restoration, and they've got a trial looking at different ways of creating dead wood, and they're testing, for example, winching trees, cutting trees and ring barking trees, and looking at the impacts on the community of insects that live in those dead trees. And they're already beginning to see results and differences between the treatments, which can directly be fed into management.
And there's a video on it too, which we've done too, which is impressive, really interesting studies, I think. So now there's over 20 funders that are now asking for evidence and many that are asking for tests. Do you think that will increase? Would you recommend it to other funders to try out?
Absolutely. I really think it makes perfect sense for funders to support this. We are supporting these projects and spending really scarce resources on this really important job of restoring our environment, and we really want it to be as effective as possible. We don't want to be wasting money on interventions that have been shown not to be the best option, and I think we're in a really good position to support the projects that we work with to kind of build this wider evidence base, and the more people contributing to it, the better it will get for everybody.